It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
No one thinks about their old hot water heater until they run out of hot water.
Oh, no.
Or until it starts leaking.
Oh, no.
If your tank water heater is over 8 years old, a leak could cost you a lot more than higher energy bills. Consider upgrading to a Navien tankless water heater. No tank to heat or leak. And endless hot water for spa-like comfort. All backed by Navien's strong warranty. Navien turns...
Oh, no.
...into...
Oh, yes.
Visit tanklessmadesimple.com.
Count on Navien.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinny Iron. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for SportingNews.com. We're getting ready here for training camps all across the NFL to open next week. They will be in full swing getting ready for actual preseason games. Then we know the expanded regular season as it goes to 17 games over 18 weeks. So a lot of exciting action ahead here, but first, we got to check in on these teams as they go into training camp. Now, we looked at all the battles there, so if you missed any of that, looking at the key quarterback battles there around the league, then running back, wide receiver, tight end, those are available up in our archives. That was what we've done all this week. Now we're going to go in a slightly different direction and looking ahead here, and we're going to catch you up with the offensive coordinator changes. And some of these changes haven't dramatically affected the way teams approach their philosophies here for 2021, but still notable to know with these new teams and these old teams with coaches what they plan to do here and their ideas of how to move the ball here in 2021. We know how they lean, run versus pass, and all that good stuff is going to be critical for us to know in determining how much we want to invest in those teams and where we want to invest in those teams in fantasy football here this season. So today we'll knock out the AFC, then we'll come back on Monday and look at the changes there in the NFC. If you're kind of keeping track of that, there were 7 offensive coordinator changes in the AFC and 6 in the NFC. That's a big number here, almost half the league, 13 out of 32 teams. So yeah, so we wanted to get you up to speed on that and know what we know from their installs and all the stuff they've done in the previous offseason through OTAs and minicamps. So we'll get into that. Make sure you're checking out Peacock and Williamson. They're going to take you all around training camp, team by team there to get the insight there on Peacock and Williamson. Former NFL scout Matt Williamson joins our analyst Brian Peacock here. Great show there to check out on the network. Check out Peacock and Williamson wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let us go through all the AFC teams here. So we got 7. We'll get to them all here. We'll start in the AFC South with a couple teams in our first segment. We're looking at the Indianapolis Colts, and with the Colts, this one's easy. They're not changing too much without Nick Sirianni. Frank Reich is still the guy calling the plays. The quarterback's coach, Marcus Brady, was elevated and promoted to replace Sirianni here. So he takes over. So there should be some continuity because it's someone on Reich's staff. Similar kind of feelings for this offense. So you'd expect them to center around the running game. Good offensive line anchored by Quentin Nelson. You have Jonathan Taylor, second-year special feature back here. So everything surrounds the running game, playing off that and setting up the passing game through that, playing defense, versatile skill position groupings there between 2 tight ends. I think you might see a little less of that. We talked about it. Just because their personnel doesn't go that way. Now, if they acquired a tight end such as Zach Ertz, then you could definitely see a return to that. But they have a lot of wide receiver depth now all of a sudden. With Paris Campbell coming back from injury, Michael Pittman fully healthy in year 2. T.Y. Hilton still on the team, and Zach Pascal was also returned. So we've discussed this a little bit with how the Colts' pecking order might go at wide receiver. You have Carson Wentz in there as well, and Wentz needs a lot of help. He was kind of on an island. The Eagles didn't consistently give him the running game to set up favorable plays and play action and all that. So the Colts are going to do everything they can between Reich and Marcus Brady getting Carson Wentz right because they want him to be a success. Now, Philip Rivers, there were some limitations there, right? He was a pocket quarterback. Wentz can be mobile, move him around, do some things there, play off the running game, bootleg if you need. You can also use him in the red zone. He's a good scorer there as a runner. So there are a lot of different things the Colts can incorporate into the offense because of having Wentz versus Rivers. It's a lot of things that they were able to do with Andrew Luck because Luck was also a guy that can move around, good athlete for his size, and that's exactly why they went after Carson Wentz on top of the Frank Reich connection with him from Philadelphia, which was pretty key there when the Eagles went on their Super Bowl run and Carson Wentz emerged in his second season of 2017. So when you look back at that, it was a good blend. You had a very good running game there to set things up. The offensive line was sturdy, we know, in Philadelphia. And there were some big plays. They were calculated, but a lot of spraying the ball around the field, taking some shots downfield. So you look at Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton, they would seem to be the guys that would do that, while Pittman and Pascal work more in the middle of the field. So I expect it to open up a little bit, but still grounded, working off the running game, getting the big plays naturally off play action, and working inside-outside with this offense here in 2021. So that's why it's a good environment here for Carson Wentz to potentially rebound and creep into the conversation of relevant fantasy football quarterbacks beyond a deep QB2 here, just because it's going to be diversified. There's some good weapons. They're going to keep teams off balance here by being balanced with Jonathan Taylor. So, again, Brady, Reich, keep this Colts offensive upside pretty high here this season. Now, staying in the division, we'll go to the Jaguars. So we go from Indianapolis to Jacksonville here in the AFC. We know Jacksonville's had household changes here with Urban Meyer taking over as the head coach, coming from his mini step away from college football in Ohio State. He's out of the booth from Fox into the coaching staff of the Jaguars, leading the sidelines. But his choice for offensive coordinator was somewhat interesting. Darrell Bevell. Yeah, Darrell Bevell is his offensive coordinator. And to put another Seahawks twist on it, one of the consultants / staff members on this team is Brian Schottenheimer. So Schottenheimer replaced Bevell there in Seattle, and now Schottenheimer was replaced again by Shane Waldron. We'll talk about him and his effect on the Seahawks on the next program on Monday. But looking at what Bevell brings to the Jaguars, what do we know about Bevell going back to stint as well in Detroit? There in between, he's going to set things up in the running game, and he's going to be looking for the deep balls downfield. So I think you're going to have a very run-heavy attack from the Jaguars. They're still a pretty good run-blocking line. You have a strong backfield now with James Robinson, the undrafted player from last year, having a big year, and now you have Travis Etienne, first-round pick. Good change of pace, but also a very solid runner on top of helping out in the passing game as a receiver. So I think a lot of this offense is going to center around the backs and what they can do. You go to Urban Meyer in Ohio State, and you look at Carlos Hyde. He brought along one of those players. So they have some depth in the backfield. We know that even though Ohio State had a lot of big plays from their quarterbacks and had that potential, they were still a very effective running team. And that's where they want to be first here for many reasons. They need to protect their defense, which is still rebuilding and trying to find its way at several positions. And you also want to take some pressure off your first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. So that said, is it going to be a conservative approach? No. I think you'll take calculated shots, but you're also not going to be necessarily trying to be pass happy and trying to win games this year if you're Jacksonville. Because, look, you do have some good weapons between DJ Chark Jr., Marvin Jones Jr., and Laviska Shenault Jr., but those have to come naturally, and I think running the ball, having those backs involved, it has a lot of benefits here for the Jaguars. So I think that's why they went in the direction of Bevell and Schottenheimer. It's not an accident that they went with two guys that worked well with a young and then a slightly older Russell Wilson to try to get him into a comfort zone. We know Lawrence has a lot of athleticism as well, on top of the big arm to push it downfield. So That's the kind of offense I see. It's not exactly what you see from the Norv Turner, Scott Turner system where it's just all about power running and then setting it up and throwing downfield. There's going to be a lot of intermediate things as well. But you look at the strength of this team, they've got quite a bit of speed and stretching ability between Chark and Chanot at wide receiver. They've got a lot of versatility in the backfield, not a lot going on at tight end. So it tells you this is going to be a run-heavy offense with a lot of between-the-tackle stuff when they're throwing. A lot of vertical stuff as well as checkdowns to Etienne is going to be the basis of this offense here. And again, Bevel got a lot out of Marshawn Lynch, so that means they're going to have some power elements to this for sure. But Etienne gives them a little bit of speed and quickness to get in the open field out of the backfield, and a lot of things to look at there with this team. So again, I'm feeling really good about the usage of the backs here because of Bevel and Schottenheimer, but I'm also tempering my expectations a little bit because of Lawrence and how they want to contain him a bit here as a rookie. All right, so there's a look at the Colts and Jaguars and their changes to new offensive coordinators and what that means here for reality and fantasy football in 2021. We will get to 5 more teams before we're done on this show to close the week. But before then, I got to tell you about Built Bar once again. Celebrate freedom of choice with Built Bar. You know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors. There's something for everyone. I'm a Built Bar fan, and I love all my favorite Built Bars. And the only way you can find out what your favorite Built Bar is to get in on it. And if you're not in on Built Bar, what's wrong? You're missing out. Just take a look at their flavors: coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry orange, cookies and cream, and German chocolate. I really love, again, the chocolate ones, the double chocolate, German chocolate, the brownie. Those are my favorite Built Bars. And the only way you can find out, again, you've got to try these. And there's a way you can try all 9 of these flavors. You can get 2 of each in a mix box there. Built Bar flavors are the best tasting, but they're also extremely healthy for you too. Check out what's in them: 17 to 18 grams protein, only 130 to 180 calories, only 4 to 5 grams sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams net carbs. All amazing flavors. Always look out for those special flavors, including grasshopper cookie, which was just out here. So they always have some twists on their flavors that you got to check out. All of them are tasty. All of them are healthy. Order today and get whatever you like. Built Bar is the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. That's awesome to know with the Olympics going on. All you have to do to get in on Built Bar, go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. Use the promo code LOCK15 at BuiltBar.com to save 15% there. We'll be right back here to continue our look at the new offenses in the AFC, continuing with the Los Angeles Chargers.
No one thinks about their old hot water heater until they run out of hot water.
Oh, no.
Or until it starts leaking.
Oh, no.
If your tank water heater is over 8 years old, a leak could cost you a lot more than higher energy bills. Consider upgrading to a Navien tankless water heater. No tank to heat or leak, and endless hot water for spa-like comfort. All backed by Navien's strong warranty. Navien turns
Oh, no.
into
Oh, yes.
Visit tanklessmadesimple.com.
Count on Navien.
All right, to let us continue the show here, and if we've taken care of what the changes are at the Colts, not much there. The Jaguars certainly going in a different direction away from Doug Marrone and that coaching staff. The Chargers are also changing things up a little bit. They moved on from Anthony Lynn. That meant Shane Steichen. He actually ended up with another team in Philadelphia. But Joe Lombardi, remember him? He was the Lions offensive coordinator one time. He was back with the Saints. He's a pretty nice protege here of Sean Payton. He's the quarterback's coach the last several seasons from 2016 to 20 for the end of the Drew Brees era. And we know Drew Brees and Lombardi with Payton had a very good connection and really delivered here offensively. So looking forward to what Lombardi can do to help Justin Herbert in year 2. Good job by Lynn and Steichen to get out a big rookie season out of Herbert. Now, Herbert actually might step into a better system for his skill set because Lombardi is going to know about his athleticism, take advantage of that, but Herbert is also accurate in spraying the ball around. So you look at Joe Lombardi, he likes using the backs and knows that Alvin Kamara was a big deal for the Saints. So Austin Eckler has a similar skill set. He's going to be a big centerpiece of what they do here in the running game. So Eckler, this is a great move for Eckler and the check downs here. Tight end hasn't worked as well, but Jared Cook has a chance to bounce back. Remember, Lombardi saw Cook there in New Orleans, so Jared Cook could be a deep sleeper here, replacing Hunter Henry at tight end. You also have Mike Williams, should get more involved at this point with Keenan Allen. They really didn't upgrade elsewhere beyond Allen and Williams, which was a bit of a surprise, but they do have some big plans for Williams here. And being that kind of field stretcher at times, but complimenting Keenan Allen all over the field. So with Joe Lombardi, it's about getting the ball out quickly, spreading it around, getting it in the hands of the playmakers as quickly as possible. So when you look at the parallels there, Austin Eckler is like Alvin Kamara, but then you would say Keenan Allen is the version of Michael Thomas here. So it's about playing through those two guys. So that should be great news for Eckler and Allen, as they really, based on the personnel that they have here and the direction that they'll push Herbert in, those guys are going to be big focal points and be more dominant parts of this offense. So that's good. Lombardi does have that knowledge of get the ball in the hands of the guys that you trust to make the plays and get in their hands quickly. And that's good for Herbert. He's going to have a quick release. Things break down. Unlike Breeze, he can run and take off and get some yards that way. So I just like the rhythm of Joe Lombardi's kind of West Coast spin here. Got the ball out, get the accurate part down here with Herbert. So I think it's just a great move for all of them, and could make Williams more relevant here when we go forward with this offense. But yeah, you expect Eckler and Allen to be dominant. These two guys maybe still being undervalued here in fantasy football drafts. I mean, I know they're not necessarily exciting. I think Eckler can be if he stays healthy and they get the ball to him. We know how special he can be. Allen's just a guy, steady, goes along. He doesn't not a big touchdown maker, but that could change here if they use him more in the Michael Thomas role with Lombardi. So exciting change here. Again, any good vibes you had about the Chargers and the returning skill position players here, I think you continue to build on those here, because I think this is going to be a great fit between Lombardi and Herbert all season long. And Herbert certainly good vibes about him being a QB1 versus any thought of a sophomore slump here this season. All right, we'll go from the Chargers to the Dolphins. The Dolphins, they didn't just hire one offense coordinator. They hired two. These were actually two guys promoted from the staff. The running backs coach, Eric Studesville, and the tight ends coach, George Godsey. So what happens when a running backs coach and a tight ends coach take over? It means they're going to focus on the running backs and tight ends. So good news for Myles Gaskin. Good news for Mike Gesicki. The MGs are going to be bringing it strong here for the MDs with those two guys being centerpieces. So we talked about Eckler and Allen. Here I could see Gesicki being used more in the mix with Godsey having the good chemistry with him. Studesville being proud of Gaskin being a prize pupil here early in his career. So again, I think those two guys are going to be key. They do want to get Tua Tagovailoa to stretch the field more, and you know that with the additions they made. There's no secret about that when they add Will Fuller and his speed, Jalen Waddle, his speed and quickness to work in the middle of the field. So if there was a concern about Gesicki being squeezed out by that trio, remember Fuller is not always healthy, and it's not necessarily going to be a straight-up spread the field and throw deep team at Tua Tagovailoa. They're going to do it naturally again, get the big plays, off the play action, off what's available. Tua is also going to be feeling comfortable with the established chemistry with Mike Gesicki. Didn't get a lot of time with Devontae Parker last year, but Gesicki and Tua certainly had something going on there. So he's not going to disappear, especially with Godsey overseeing a good chunk of this offense. Gaskin now has a good chance to be the lead and maybe a little bit working Salvin Ahmed a little bit behind him this year. So, again, I don't suddenly buy that Tua, they're going to unleash him. They were very controlled and reined with him last year. Part of that is Brian Flores wanting to play off the defense and not make a lot of mistakes and put them in bad situations. That's why they struggled there and wanted to go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick at times. They want some stability out of that offense. So they want the big plays again to be part of the flow and not force the action there, especially Waddle learning an offense, getting his feet wet as a rookie here. I know he's got good chemistry to Tagovailoa, but he's got to get down the NFL route running and all that nuance here. Will Fuller's a guy that suspension, injury, not you can consistently count on there. But I think it's going to be a slow play development here with Gasky. I was almost going to say Gesicki and Gaskin that's a hard thing to say. Myles Gaskin and Mike Gesicki. That's how you say their names. But however you say it, that tongue twister is going to be definitely the part of this offense that it's going to be pretty consistent here in 2021 for the Dolphins. So that's why there's a lot of buzz over Gaskin and Gesicki. Again, say that 10 times fast. And again, the wide receivers, right now it's completely hard to trust all of them. You still feel good about Parker being the default number one, but between Waddle and Fuller, we need to still see more out of Tua connecting with those guys to believe it there. But again, you can sometimes follow where guys have come from to know what they might be doing and what positions and they might favor as play callers. All right, the next team we'll talk about is the New York Jets. This team I'm excited about their potential here. Mike LaFleur, I think he's a great young offensive mind here coming over. They really tried to keep him in San Francisco. He was the passing game coordinator there for the last 2 years. Kyle Shanahan didn't really want him to leave, but like his brother Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur is destined to do some bigger things here. So I bet he's another guy we're going to watch for a head coaching job here soon, much like Shanahan and his brother Matt. So that said, this was a great hire by the Jets to get him to switch coasts from San Francisco to New York. He's going to put in a lot of favorable concept here for Zach Wilson. And again, I'm leaning towards being more excited about Zach Wilson, what he can do as a rookie here versus Trevor Lawrence, because we talked about Darrell Bevel making that more run-heavy. Now, Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan had made their offense about the running game as well, but Mike was in charge of the passing game. So he's going to be in tune with Wilson's skill set, the accuracy, the arm, the athleticism. He's going to do everything he can to facilitate that through the running game with the zone blocking scheme. He's got the two really good offensive linemen on the left side in the rookie Elijah Vera Tucker and the second-year left tackle there, Mekhi Becton. So that's a good combination to work with. So you should have a running game to set things up, play action, bootlegs, taking advantage of Wilson's ability to run. And you have some good weapons here. And it's actually a good problem right now. We've talked about the Jets that it seems like the one sure thing is Corey Davis is the go-to guy, which is a good place to start. But then you look at the interchangeable depth between Elijah Moore and Jamison Crowder in the slot, Keelan Cole there that you can have. Denzel Mims may not be the best fit for this offense, but there are some options here, some very good skill players all around, and some better depth at tight end all of a sudden as well with Tyler Kroft joining Chris Herndon and Ryan Griffin. So you got a lot of options. You can diversify the portfolio. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo have pretty good success in the system. We know that Matt Ryan had the ultimate success in the system. So Zach Wilson's going to take some lumps. He's inexperienced. He's adjusting to the NFL. But that said, this offense is so QB-friendly with the running game and getting the ball in the hands of playmakers that Wilson's going to have a chance to produce some really relevant numbers here, at least to be a valuable QB2 at times here this season. So excited about the Jets offense. Really, I think you're going to see big changes and Jets offense being relevant and a lot of it tied to facilitating Wilson and LaFleur having a nice balanced but explosive attack this season. All right, that takes care of a look at three more teams. We've got two more to talk about. We'll do that in our final segment. Talked about the Colts, Jaguars, Chargers, Dolphins, and Jets. We will talk about the changes for the Steelers and the Titans on the other side of this, but make sure you're getting in on the Locked On Network now. I mean, our team-by-team podcasts are incredible, and they're going to be taking you inside the training camp, whether it's the Chiefs or the Giants or the 49ers or the Rams or the Eagles. We've got you covered really all across the NFL. So whatever your favorite team is, you want to be into the Locked On Network. And if you haven't checked us out there for our beat reports that come to you every day, 5 days a week, you got to check it out right now. No better time to get in on the Locked On NFL Network with our team-by-team podcast than right before training camp. We'll be right back here to close the show looking at the big changes for the Steelers and Titans and their offenses for 2021.
This episode is brought to you by Exxon and Mobil's Synergy Supreme Plus. Snacks, smartphone, kids, and dog. Got 'em all. You're packed and ready for your first road trip in a very long time. But wait, now you gotta fill the car. So why not check out the Exxon or Mobil station down the street? where you can fill up with their best fuel ever, Synergy Supreme Plus. It's premium fuel that keeps your engine 2 times cleaner for better gas mileage. And that's a whole lot cleaner than your back seat will be after a trip with 2 kids and a dog. Go Synergy Supreme Plus. It's premium. It's supremium. Fill up today at your closest Exxon or Mobil station. Synergy Supreme Plus gas compared to Synergy regular gas import fuel injected engines. Benefits based on continuous use and may vary. Go to Exxon.com for details.
This episode is brought to you by Comcast. In the last 10 years, Comcast's Internet Essentials program has connected more than 10 million Americans to low-cost broadband internet at home. Now, Comcast is committing $1 billion over the next 10 years to reach 50 million low-income Americans with the tools and resources they need to succeed in a digital world. Learn more at comcast.com/education.
All right, let us go to our final 2 teams we want to talk about in the AFC. Don't forget, we will look at the 6 NFC teams that changed offensive coordinators there on the Monday show. We'll start the week that way, and then we'll go into full training camp mode for you there. Again, we're 5 days a week, just like all the shows on the NFL Network here on Locked On. It's a season time for us, and we want to give you the most insight in our quickest nugget form possible here for you all season long. All right, let's do that with the Steelers and Titans. The Steelers are going to Canada. No, they're not moving to Canada. They've hired Matt Canada to replace Randy Fichtner as their offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach, so good familiarity with Ben Roethlisberger. They do want to open things up a little bit in this offense, but Roethlisberger's health may limit some of that, so I think they're going to adjust. If you look at the direction of where this offseason has gone, they used a first-round pick on Najee Harris. The Steelers are not easy to use a skill position pick that high in the draft. So when you look at it, I think Matt Canada is going to incorporate more short to intermediate things here that are necessary to this offense. They do need to stretch the field a little bit, but Roethlisberger, they may not be equipped to do that. So there's going to be some things that change for sure here in this offense. Again, you just can't go operating to think that Big Ben has a big arm, because clearly that wasn't the case. So, again, Najee Harris, everything points to him being the centerpiece of what they do. And remember, Mike Tomlin also prefers having the running game as a centerpiece because it helps protect his defense. It's better complementary football overall. And he also likes his coordinators to lean towards a workhorse. So that all points to Najee Harris being not just an RB2 with upside, but an RB1 falling into the top 12, whether you're in half-point, full PPR, or standard leagues here. So, yeah, Harris is going to be the guy. You look at the potential there for the 11 personnel. I think that could hurt a little bit Chase Claypool. They got him the ball downfield at some points, but I think this helps Deontay Johnson maybe because he's the best route runner overall, receiver on the outside, Juju Smith-Schuster. So they want a little bit of a big play quotient, but they also don't want to lose sight of their strengths here in Pittsburgh. So Canada will try to adjust a little bit better than Fichtner could here. There were some times where Roethlisberger cost them because they were still thinking he was the old Big Ben. Canada will make it more diversified, keep Harris a centerpiece, bring back that balance to the Steelers, and again, without losing some of the aggressiveness. It just has to come naturally. That's something that we've talked about a lot, is you just can't be a pass-happy team there and expect results. You got to have the balance to set things up, and the Steelers want more things to develop within the framework of the running game, and knowing that that's where they have to lean a little bit more with Roethlisberger's limitations, but they also know Roethlisberger is smart enough to adjust his game here and realize, okay, look, the play action, bootlegs, all that stuff is going to be available to me. I can take less hits and still get the ball downfield here this season. All right, the final team we'll talk about is the Titans, and this team, not a lot of changes here in what they're going to do. They promoted their former tight ends coach, Todd Downing. He is replacing Arthur Smith, who went to Atlanta to become the head coach, and now Arthur Smith is going to be calling plays there, so we'll break that down for you first on our next show. So Todd Downing, you figure it passed here from Matt LaFleur to Arthur Smith, and now to Todd Downing. It's the same philosophy. You get the running game going, set it up with Derrick Henry, power it up, and then throw downfield to your wide receivers. Last year, it was A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. This year, it's simply A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. So they had a direct replacement there for Corey Davis. Julio Jones is more of that complimentary 1A, 1B type receiver at this point. To A.J. Brown is really the number one. So those guys will continue to be key. So Corey Davis gives you a good parallel to see what they might do with Julio Jones. Then you look at Anthony Ferkser. They want to get Ferkser going here as the tight end to replace Jonas Smith. So they want that aspect of their offense as well. Maybe a little bit more relief for Derrick Henry, but still, this is the bread and butter. Set up Ryan Tannehill. Why would you mess with something that really works here? The Titans have it all going on. Good blocking, power running from Derrick Henry, play action downfield. No passer was as exceptional as Ryan Tannehill last year doing that. So you keep the weapons intact. You just change the name from Davis to Jones there to complement Brown, and Smith to Ferkser. So again, the Titans, a lot of indication that they're not going to change things up and keep things at a high level here based on their success and one of the more explosive offenses in the league and the run heaviest as well. So it's a good combination here for everything involved. This is really the ideal situation for a lot of teams. Again, natural flow of the offense. Titans have a good grasp of that right now, and Downing will continue that in his mild transition here where not a lot will change in Tennessee. All right, so there's your catch-up on the new AFC offensive coordinators and how they might change or not change these teams going into the season. So, again, we'll cover the 6 teams in the NFC that had a similar change here in the offseason. Can do a little bit of extra systems check for you. Then, again, we'll focus in on what's going on in training camp. I'm sure we'll have some news that comes out. Again, we had the big injury with Cam Akers, but we want to take some time to dive into that and see where the Rams might be going there. So we'll consistently bring you news and notes there from camp as we gather it here starting early next week. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinny Iyer. Also, make sure you're checking out on the network Locked On Today. Today on the Locked On Today podcast, will DeAndre Hopkins choose to walk away over the NFL's COVID-19 rules? Get more of the sports news you need in less time with the Locked On Today podcast. Follow Locked On Today podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us everywhere on LOFF. For LOFF, this is Vinny Iyer. Have a great weekend and see you on Monday.
No one thinks about their old hot water heater until they run out of hot water.
Oh, no.
Or until it starts leaking.
Oh, no.
If your tank water heater is over 8 years old, a leak could cost you a lot more than higher energy bills. Consider upgrading to a Navien tankless water heater. No tank to heat or leak. And endless hot water for spa-like comfort. All backed by Navient's strong warranty. Navien turns...
Oh, no.
...into...
Oh, yes.
Visit tanklessmadesimple.com.
Count on Navien.
This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Have you ever listened to a podcast like this one and you wanted to bring up your own point or just chat with other people that are listening at the same time? Well, let me tell you about Spotify Green Room. This is the first social audio platform made just for sports fans. The app is free to download, and once you're in, you can talk with us, other fans, athletes, insiders in real time about your favorite sport or team. Download the app, currently available on iOS devices. Create a profile, link your Twitter, join one of the groups for the latest league updates, and then you'll see us there. Spotify Green Room, changing the way we talk sports.